Hey guys, this is Mark. Welcome back. In this video, I want to talk about a very important concept, which is a flow instance. In these training videos, in our documentation, in the FlowRunner user interface, you will see and you will hear from me mentioning flow instances. So what is an instance? It's both simple, but it's a very important concept. And what it represents, it really is just a dedicated run of your flow. So while it is simple, there are some caveats that you need to understand when that run actually happens. If you think when you click the start flow and a run automatically is created, that is not necessarily the case because there are some things to keep in mind. And with this, I prepared a little animated presentation that I want to go over to discuss when those instances are created and what impacts the creation of those instances. Because understanding that before you start going into the actual design and thinking how you're going to put those automations together, I think that will give you an additional perspective, sort of a dimension into how flows and automations are executed in FlowRunner. So with this, let's jump into my presentation and see what I have prepared for you there. So the first scenario is going to be trigger initiated flows. What does it mean? It's a flow where the very first element, first block is a trigger. In this case, I do have a simple flow. In fact, this is the flow that you and I built 2 videos ago for receipt scanning. And if you remember, the very first block was a trigger that was sitting and waiting till an image would become available, till you snap a picture with your phone and that file is uploaded. So let's just say that you click Start Flow button and now flow is in the live state. What happens then? You kind of already know what happens then. The flow sits and waits till a file is uploaded, and you are absolutely correct. So here's our trigger, and let's say that a file is uploaded, and in this case, FlowRunner automatically creates an instance, sort of a kind of a running version of your flow, and that instance is dedicated entirely to that specific file. Okay, the whole execution is sandboxed to whatever event that has initiated that flow. If another file is uploaded in parallel at the same time, a little bit later, whenever, then another instance of that flow will be created. And you could have multiple instances running in parallel. They do not cross over. If you need them to cross over, we'll get to this. There is a way where they can exchange data, but let's keep it simple for now. So what you need to know is that for trigger initiated flows, once you click start flow, then FlowRunner makes that flow sort of active. Nothing is running yet. It waits till an event that triggers your trigger, it happens. Only then an instance of the flow is created. And by the way, once it runs and completes, you can go into analytics and see exactly what data that instance was working with, what was that file that came in, and so on. So that's kind of easy to understand. Now, next concept is going to be scheduled flows. And we haven't really talked about scheduling and creating schedules, and we'll get to that. There are some interesting things that you can do, but kind of getting ahead of ourselves, a scheduled flow is a flow that will run according to a specific schedule. It can run as frequently as every 30 seconds, or you could have it run daily, weekly, doesn't matter. There is a whole system for setting up very, very complex schedules if you need to. But let's just say that you click Run Flow, and there is a little clock right there on the live tag. This is just symbolically to represent that this is a scheduled flow. So what happens here is, and notice that in this flow, it's a little bit different schematically. The very first block is an action: search leads and then do something with those leads and send an email. So that's our flow. So now let's say that we have, and this is an action, so I wanted to point that out. So with the scheduled flows, scheduler comes in and it says, okay, I'm going to be executing your flows. So every so often it starts, and then a new instance of your flow is created for every single run. Okay. And then those are running in parallel. Okay, that's with actions. If your flow starts with a trigger, then multiple instances will be created. okay? And then each of them is sitting and waiting for a particular trigger to occur, okay? And that could get quite confusing, because if you're starting your flow with a schedule and it's waiting for an event, then that event would actually, whenever it happens, will create a separate instance. But that may get a little bit complicated. We'll revisit that particular scenario once we start talking about schedules. But it's kind of easier to understand when your flow starts with an action like it does right here. Next, we have on-demand flows. So that's a flow where you are provided with an opportunity, a way to control when that flow is an instance of it is created. So here we have a flow that starts with an action. And in this case, let's say that we run this flow. You click run flow. If you think that that flow just starts in instantly running and doing this thing, you are wrong. In this case, when the flow starts with an action and you click run flow button, the flow is automatically, the FlowRunner prepares it. It says, okay, that flow, I'm an alert. I'm waiting for the second command that will come programmatically to run that flow. Okay, so this way you can control when that flow would need to start, because in our experience, whenever you click run flow, that's not exactly the time when you actually want to start things to happen. Okay, some other system may need to say, okay, now do this, and the flow starts running. So how does it work? Well, again, this is an action. So let's say that we have this API cloud, and in there, what's going to happen is there's going to be a so-called call flow API. Well, it's literally going to be called call flow. And the call flow is an API that can be used by some external system to say, now run and create an instance of that flow and run. So in this case, call flow API happens, instance one is created and it's running. Then you may have another call flow API. You call it again, and the second instance of your flow is created. And you could have multiple call flow APIs triggered whenever. You can actually pass additional information into the flow and it will receive it and will start using. So in this case, this is the on-demand flow where you basically have a high degree of control when a new instance of the flow is going to be created. And with this, that covers pretty much all the use cases that exist with instances. So as you can see, simply because we support both triggers and actions at the very beginning of the flow, then there are some differences as to when the instances are created, and with additional complexity of schedules, that gets even more complex. But I hope that what I described in this video is clear. It gives you a perspective and understanding of how those instances are created. And with this, I think we are ready to start digging into actual building blocks of the flows so we can start creating automations. The next video is going to be about triggers, and that's when things will start getting really interesting. Thank you for watching this video, and until next video, happy automating.